Alright guys, well I just did 15 minutes worth of a video and then I realized that my camera had tilted and I'm going to start over. Hi! I don't know if however many of you may have seen the short that I posted a couple days ago, but I dropped my baby into a sink of soapy water in the kitchen a couple days ago and now she's done. Still damp. Back cover's really squishy right here. And the pages have run all to heck. Look at that. So I made the decision to start fresh. Which sucks, because, you know, I didn't get very far, as you can see. And, you know, anyway, it is what it is. For that reason, I have decided to go back to my roots with my composition book. So since I have to start over, I decided I would show you guys how I set mine up. So this is a Unison brand composition book. I get these at Target at the beginning of the school year. They're usually 50 cents. I don't think I've ever paid more than 50 cents for one. But I stock up when I get them because I've only ever seen them at Target during back to school. You can look online. They may be on Amazon. If they are, that's awesome. I don't know that you can get them for 50 cents. I don't know. But I just always stock up at the beginning of back to school season at Target. I'll usually get like 5 or 6 of these and then I just have them. Because I figure, you know, eventually they'll decide to raise the price and then I won't want to pay any more than 50 cents. Anyway, so before I get started, I do need to break this baby in. And like I said in my previous, at the beginning of this video, I just shot like 15 minutes of a video before I realized my camera was tilted and I'm starting over. So I already broke it in, but I'll show you how I did it. When you first get a composition book, they're very stiff. They most likely have never been opened. They come totally flat like this. And so we need to break in the spine a little bit so that you can open it and it will lay flat-ish, right? So what I do is, you see how it's sewn in the middle? It's basically just 100 sheets of paper stacked up, sewn down the middle, and then folded in half. So the first thing I do is I find the middle and I squish it as flat as I can in the middle, okay? And that just relaxes it a little bit, okay? Then I take it and I fold it back on itself, okay? It's sewn right down the middle. I'm not loosening any pages, but I'm going to give it a good squeeze, okay? Now it's laying super flat, okay? That's what we want. Now, when you close it, you know, the cover is going to want to pop up. That's okay. You just spent, you know, see how it wants to open? That will relax over time. But for now, we're breaking it in. It's brand new. It's going to, you know, we're trying to make it do the opposite of what it wants to do. How's that? Okay, so we got that done. But now we need to figure out what to do with the cover, because if you open the cover without breaking it in some way, it's going to just want to pop up all the time. So you're going to open it and it's just going to want to pop right back up because it's been sewn like this and shut for however long it's been since it was manufactured. So we're breaking it in by opening it up and going in maybe a 1/4 inch. Probably more than that. I don't even know. No, that's probably about a 1/4 inch. Let's look. Yeah, 1/4 inch-ish. And I make a couple of marks with my pen, and then I take a heavy, sharp, good ruler, right? And I put it on those marks. And then I stick my hand underneath the rest of it, and I just push along that ruler on the underside. I push. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a bend in the cover so that it will lay flat when it's closed and lay flat when it's open, okay? So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to open it up. Oop, if I can get it open. You're going to find that kind of 1/4 inch, and I've already done this, but I'll show you again. Put my ruler down, and I go in over here and I just push as hard as I can against it. Try to keep the ruler in place. And what that does then is it allows there to be just a little bit of a bend here so that it'll stay shut when it's closed and it'll stay open when it's open, right? And this also allows you, if you're like me, and sometimes the size of this can be a little much, or you're trying to stand in the grocery store and write in your planner, you can, and since you've made that bend, you can flip your planner over on itself. And you can either keep that bend there or make it more prolific so that it bends like, you know, like that. But then it's just easier to go back in place and stay flat again. Okay. So now that we've broken it in, see, it does, you can see it looks a little bit rough. You know, you can tell we've bent that all out of shape. But as you use your planner over time, this whole spine here will relax from the opening and the closing, and it will all be fine, I promise. Okay. So now I've opened it all the way. I've turned it back on itself. I've put a little bend in both sides of the cover. Now I open it to the middle and I open these pages, and every couple of, you know, handful of pages, I'll go in and I'll squish it down. And all that does is just relax the paper, relax the seam, so that when you are opening and closing your journal, it will stay flat. It may not stay completely flat all the time, but it will relax enough that you can use it without it wanting to close on you. There we go. All right. So now I chose some scrapbook paper to cover my journal with, but I want to show you that you don't have to use just scrapbook paper. You could really use any paper as long as it covers your cover and leaves an edge, okay? So for instance, this is just a piece of paper I had laying around, my son's Christmas list. But this is a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but you can see, you line it up, there's extra paper all the way around. So you could use even just an 8.5 by 11 size regular sheet of paper. This bag, if you really wanted to, I just got this bag from some stickers that I ordered. You could cut this open and open it up, and you see it would be big enough. You could use this to cover your paper. You could use a magazine cover. Let me find a magazine. Sorry, I didn't have one handy, but you could take a magazine cover and see, most magazines, they're about the same size. You could use a magazine cover and go all the way around. You can use pretty much whatever you want as long as you have enough edge that you can cover your cover and then fold it in. That's what we're gonna do. So once you've picked your paper, which I've done here, you're gonna need 4 sheets of paper that are at the very least the same size as your cover or have some extra on the edges. Okay, you need 4 pieces. You need a piece for the cover, and then inside the cover, inside the cover, the front cover, and then you need the back cover and then the inside of the back cover. So that's what I have here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take all my pages. These are the kind that have perforations at the top. So see how there's a little perforation. I'm going to trim that off to start, or at least get them all going the right direction. There we go. So all my perforations are at the top. Okay. So now I need to decide how I want my paper to lay. So I'm using this as my cover, right? Well, I can see that it's upright looking at it this way. All the butterflies are right side up. So now I just need to trim. So this paper is 12 by 12. and it has this little perforated line at the top, which normally you would cut that off. But since it's going to be inside my cover and it's going to be covered up by another piece of paper, I'm not even going to worry about that. But I don't want to have so much excess. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to line this up along this black tape spine here. So when I've got that all lined up, I'm going to push down at the top and bottom so I can see where I've made a mark on the other side. So when I flip it over, I can see that's the top, that's the bottom, right? Okay. But I don't need all this extra. That's too much. So I'm going to take my cover, I'm going to lay it down this way, and I'm going to line it up with that top and bottom mark that I made. And I'm going to make sure it's even. It's even with my seam there, right? See how it's top and the bottoms are even? And I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure. So this is about 5.5 inches-ish. I'm going to measure about 2 inches out. So let's go to 3.5. I'll make a little mark, okay? Luckily this one has stripes, makes it easier, but I just want to give myself an edge, okay? So now all I have to do is just cut my paper. So this one's easy since there's a line. I'm just going to cut right on that line. Now you could obviously use a paper trimmer. You could use, one of those big guillotine paper cutters, and I have both, but I want to show you that you can just use stuff you have laying around the house too. You don't need to have super fancy stuff, okay? So now we can see that if we flip this over, close our book, that now we'll have this paper and there's enough edge that we can fold it in, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna stick it on. So I like to use this stuff, and I just opened this one and then I threw away the package. I get this from Hobby Lobby. You can buy it at Michael's, you can buy it online, but it's basically just permanent double-sided tape. It's a slight bit thicker than regular double-sided tape, but if you wanted to use that, you could. I like to use this because it's acid-free, so that means that it will stay longer, it will stick longer, and it won't discolor your paper. Tapes that are not acid-free do have a tendency over time, years, but over time, they can yellow the paper that you stick it on. So this is about a 1/2 inch wide. It doesn't really matter how wide it is. It sticks just the same, but this is just what I happen to have. So you find the end and you peel it, and it's just this kind of clear tape. So what I do is I stick it, instead of putting it on my paper, I stick it on my planner, because that way I know I'm going to get it right exactly where I need it. Okay. Whoop. And then I didn't do it right exactly where I needed it. This is repositionable to a degree, but don't expect it to come off easily. Then you push it down. You trim off the excess with your scissors. Stick that down. Trim the excess off over here. Okay. And then you can take this top part off, this red part, and peel it, and then what you have underneath is just clear tape, okay? I'm not ready to peel it yet, but I'm gonna go ahead, oh, someone's texting me, how exciting. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of my tape on. I'm gonna do it in real time, because it's just, it's okay. Everything doesn't have to be fast and furious. And I don't want to have to edit my video if I don't need to, so we're gonna wing it, people. You do have to be careful with this, like I said, because it is super sticky and it will stick to everything. Okay, so you do that, and then I usually do a little across the top. It doesn't have to be precise on any other part of your cover except You do want it to be as absolutely close to this as humanly possible so that the edge will stick down. Because otherwise sometimes that edge will over time will kind of come up a little bit, and then it's just, it doesn't affect the functioning of your planner, but it can just be kind of annoying. Okay. Now you could also do more in the middle or like an X or something. I don't really feel the need to do that because you know, this stuff costs money, but also B, I guess, you don't really need to. You've got it all the way around the edge and it's not going to come up in the middle. Okay. So now you peel your tape and these edges, these just peel right off. And part of what makes this tape feel thick is the fact that it does have this red plastic on it. So it's not as thick when you take the red part off as it would seem. Okay, so now we make sure that we have our covers the right way, the paper is the right way. Now we're going to line the edge of our paper up as close to that edge as we can. And we're just going to keep adjusting it as we need to until we get it right. Sometimes you may get it on there slightly off. That is not the end of the world. Sometimes it may take a minute. All right, I think we got it. I think I have to do it this way. This is riveting YouTube right here. I think it's easier to do it from the side. There we go. All right. And then you just stick it down. Just make sure that you start in the middle and work your way outward. So you're not left with any big gaping spots in the middle, and it lays flat. There you go. Then we're going to do the same thing on the inside. Now, one thing about this that might bother some people is this schedule thing on the inside, but we're going to cover that because remember we have a page to cover the inside as well. So the first thing we're going to do though is we're going to fold these over. Now, if you want to be fancy and cover your corners, you can fold it down in the middle and then fold the edges in. That's too bulky for me, so I just cut those corners off. It doesn't have to be precise. It doesn't have to be exactly 45 degrees. I just cut up to where that corner is. I don't use a ruler. I don't measure. Just eyeball it. Because we're not building the Taj Mahal. We're just covering a planner with paper, right? Okay. So now you'll have somewhat mitered corners, and these aren't going to be, you know, crazy. So now what I do at this point is I use a glue stick on this part because this part isn't going to be seen by anybody but me. And glue sticks work just as well as the tape. The tape works well though because you can make sure it's straight and all the way up to the edge. And it's very permanent. This, I'm going to have a whole nother sheet of paper stuck to the top of this. So this, I'm just going to use a quick glue stick. I like to use the Elmer's Craft Bond, extra strength. Works great. Slap some glue on there. Bend your paper over. Make sure you bend it over as close to the seam as you can so it's not sticking up. And then you just stick it down. And then we do that all around. And stick her down. If you want, you can take your ruler and you can kind of, you know, squish it flat a little bit better. You know, if you really want to be precise about it, make sure it's all stuck down. But again, we're going to have another sheet of paper on top of this. So my biggest concern is just sticking the flaps down and making sure that they're adhered, okay? And with glue, you do have, your paper is going to want to curl a little bit. So I don't use too much on this part, just for the reason that, again, it's going to have other paper over the top of it. And It just needs to be stuck to the book. It doesn't have to be, you know, like there's a little bit sticking up. That's okay. We're going to cover that. Okay. But now look at our pretty cover. Let's upside down. Look at our pretty cover. Okay. Now we're going to do the inside. This inside, it doesn't really matter which way it goes because we're not using that side. So I'll just take it and I will lay it down and I just kind of eyeball it. I want it to be just inside the edge, right? So I'm going to take a pencil, if I can find one, so sorry. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to flip it over to the other side so I can make marks on it. And I'm just going to eyeball it. See? There's the mark I made for when we bent it back. So I'm going to go just inside of that. Okay, and I'm going to make a line there. And see how there's just a little bit of an edge. Don't worry about the corner. And here we've got just inside the edge. But see now, here's our next part of the page. Okay. Now, because we're just making straight cuts, I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to feel where that is with my fingers. And I'm just going to go boop, just like that. Okay, so I made a mark here and a mark here. Now to double check that, then I take my page and I look for my marks. So I got a mark here. Nope, sorry, I got a mark here and I got a mark here. I just put my page down, make sure that, you know, we're good. And then I just use my ruler. So much of this is just eyeballing, like literally, I'm just eyeballing here. If I get to the end and it's not great, not perfect, that's okay. All right. So I'm going to make a mark here and a mark here. If I really want to double check that that is straight, we can also use geometry. You fold it on itself and you can just fold it. And there you also have a straight line. But see, it did line up with my ruler, so it's all good. Anyway, so we're just going to cut that. Okay, so we're just going to cut right on that line. We're not going to worry about if it's perfect because, again, it's the inside of the planner that only we will see 9 times out of 10. No one else is ever going to see it. Okay, so here's the other mark I made. I'm going to practice my geometry and I'm just going to fold it over on that line. If I wanted to, I could use my ruler, but again, I'm going to trust that I paid attention in high school. And cut that. Now I have an inside cover. Keep these. If you're a crafter, keep these. This is a perfect bookmark. Look at that. You could use this to cover a mini composition book. You could make a card out of it. You could glue it to your wall because it's pretty. Keep that. Not that I'm encouraging hoarding. Don't hoard. Okay. Now, we've got our paper, right? There's just a little bit of an edge all the way around. That's perfect. These marks, you can do one of two things. You can move this paper in far enough that you cover those up. Problem with that is now you are on the bend, and when you flip it over, this might start coming up. So solutions are, next time, don't be a dummy like I was and use a pen, use a pencil, and then you can erase it. Or I just use my whiteout. I use this freaking whiteout for everything. There, no more marks, except I just got on my desk. Okay, now we're not going to worry about the corners. I'm not going to worry about the corners. You can if you want. I'm just going to line this up. Okay, now see how we had that schedule? That's just covered up now. We're not even thinking about that anymore. We're just going to stick this on here. And again, it doesn't have to be adhered all the way around completely perfectly because, again, we're going to cover this with contact paper. Okay, I don't have the contact paper today. I will have to go buy some more. But for now, just know it's okay. If you just choose to use contact paper, then you can just kind of slap that on there and call it good, and the rest will be covered up later. If you really want it to be you know, really stuck down well, you can use the permanent tape. You could use a glue stick if you want. The problem with using the glue stick on the inside cover is that when you close the book, the moisture from the glue stick will seep through this paper and will make these papers wrinkly and warped. So just be aware of that. So on the inside, I do like to use this just for that reason, because then it doesn't warp the other paper. So we're going to stick this down. We're going to get as close to the edge. Whoop, static. I'm going to get as close to the edge as we can. So I'm going to have to stick my big noggin in here so I can see what I'm doing here. We're going to put this as close to the edge as we can just to make sure that we get it stuck down right all the way around. Okay. Trim it with our scissors. Trying to get right up on the edge here. All right, and we're gonna do this one. A little bit of paper is stuck on there. I'm not gonna show you how to do the back cover as well because I feel like you're getting the gist of doing the inside, the front cover here. And then that way when I get the contact paper, it'll be easier to see because the planner will be done. I don't want this video to be an hour and a half long of me just sticking things to a piece of paper. Anyway, so I'll do the back cover separately and then I'll just show you later in a different video when it's all done. But for now, let's stick this on here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's the inside cover. Only we're going to see it. In my case, I'm going to cover it with contact paper anyway, so it's not like it's going to be, this inside cover page isn't going to be, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I am also a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm trying. Okay. So we've gone all the way around with our paper, or with our tape. We take off the red part. It'd be kind of hard to get up underneath that red edge sometimes. And if you need some help, sometimes you can use the edge of your scissors to kind of, push it up. If you need to, that can be helpful. I know some people don't really have fingernails, or their fingernails are thick, and it's hard to get underneath that edge. So, do whatever you need to do to get that part done. But now we have it on our paper. Oh, I just about lost my scissors. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to start on the outside edge because I want to work my way to the middle. I'm just going to line it up, make sure that there's room on both sides. And I'm just going to start here. I'm going to go up the middle and then I'm going to work my way outward so that if there are any weird air bubbles in the middle, we push those out as we go. And then just push down really well on the edges. There you go. That's not going anywhere. Now you can see there's a little bit of a corner here that we didn't get rid of. I'm just going to cut that off because I'm still putting contact paper over the top of this, remember? And what I'll do is when I put on the contact paper, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut off the corners because the contact paper is more to make the cover durable. The corners, if you want to take a corner rounder and round those off or use your scissors and make it a little nicer, that is entirely up to you. I honestly don't care enough about it to stress about the corners. You can see when it's laying flat, it looks fine. The corners are still out of the way. When you open it up inside, you don't really notice. It's fine. So that's the inside front cover. I will do exactly the same thing on the back, but with these two pages. So we're just doing exactly the same thing, but working backwards. So instead of, the seam being on this side, it's just on this side. That's literally the only difference. So we're still going to put our paper on. We're going to trim, fold the pages inside, glue them down, and then Same with this. We'll cut it to size. We'll stick that on, and the inside cover or the front cover and the back cover will be just the same. But I do want to show you this. So this cover's pretty flimsy without paper on it. This one is much more stiff. So it does add stability to cover your composition book. If you choose not to cover it at all, excuse me, that is entirely up to you. This is your book. Do what you want. I like to cover it to provide some stability. And I also like pretty flowers. But this, you know, is pretty iconic. Everybody recognizes it. It's got useful information. You do what you want. I like to cover mine. So now, next video I do, I will have the back cover already in place, and I will show you how I do the contact paper. In the meantime, time to start fresh. So I'll have all kinds of plan with me's and you know, monthly layouts to do, and I will go over those with you guys coming up. But right now I need to go get some more contact paper, so I'll see you next time.